Hello and welcome back to Pandemic Playground with Dave. So today we have another experiment for you guys, and that is going to be playing around with monowheels, but more particularly the gyroscope method of having one on override and one on not override. So let's get started. So in this case, it's a bit of a how-to and also a bit of a monowheel method type of showcase here. And generally, I want to showcase this rover with the gyroscope on override and the other one not on override, and how we can manipulate this to work. So on the left hand side, you'll see the gyroscope in green. So that's your regular one that's just on. And then you have the other one that is on override. So we can just turn them on and off in this case, and you'll see different colors there. So for whatever reasons, which makes kind of no sense, if you were to turn one on override, leave the other one on non-override, you can do this. So you can pitch up, down, spin it left and right really easily with the mouse. Or even if you're using your keyboard or controls, left, right, and everything like that. As you see, you could easily do like a wheelie or so from there. So yeah, I don't know why it does that, but kind of an experiment I want to try is take the non-gyroscope one. Let's just say put it to 0 power, which is technically off. Would it still act the same? Oh, that's interesting. It doesn't. And if you take that same one again, let's just say 1 to 2%. Let's just say 2% for now. Will we get the same maneuverability? Okay, it slows it down, so that makes sense. So that means we can control this a little bit better in terms of the wiggle power. Like, not non-scientifically way of saying it. So let's just say 20% power on this gyroscope on the left-hand side. The other one's on override, so yeah. So okay, that actually makes it a little bit easier to manipulate and control a little bit. So it doesn't wiggle as much. That's a good sign. The gyroscope that's on override, let's just say it's even if it's at like 1%, like 0.01, and you just put on override, that's not going to make a difference, I don't think. Yeah, it shouldn't, because it's on override. Oop, why is this wiggling out like that? Alright, that's interesting how even at 20%, that was a bit much when I did that. So it's seemingly spinning really fast all over again for some reason. Even if we have it at the 20% mark. If I put this back at 20%, I mean, I guess it was still doing the same. Interesting. I'm kind of thrown off by it because it wasn't swinging that crazy before. See, look. Interesting find here. As you see, I'm wiggling my mouse really wildly, and that's as far as I'm gonna get, right? So if I go back to the override one and put the power back to 1% or close to it, and wig out my mouse a little bit, so it's doing the same, kind of the same thing, but a little bit more. So that's actually quite interesting that that bit of a change actually makes a difference. I honestly didn't think it would, because look, I'm wiggling my mouse, and look how much is moving. And if I go back to 100% power here, I'm wiggling the same motions, and it's just not doing as much. So I guess that does play a bit of a role there in terms of the gyroscope on override. So let's put this back at 100. You see it's wiggling a lot. So what if I put this at 1% now and have it go on override? Ooh, it's like even crazier. So if I do the same motion, that's what's happening. Alright, so we spectate a little bit. You'll see right there. That's how crazy. I'm just moving it really, really slightly, and it's going crazy. So changing the power on override, or changing the power on the override, makes it quite a difference. If we did 50%, wow, that is a significant movement right there. That is surprising how that changes so much when we do that. So I'm going up and down, and that's as fast as it can go. If I do 60%, ooh, look at that. Look how crazy that is. And then if we go back to that, like less than 10% or 3%, look, I'm flying basically. So if you want more maneuverability, lower the override one and increase the power on the other one. The one that's just on, the non-override one. So that is actually quite interesting that it's doing that. All right, so that is the basics of a monowheel, or a one-wheeler, or I guess you can say unicycle in essence. So again, two gyroscopes, one override, one on non-override. And it looks like if you change the power a little bit, you can make it wiggle and maneuver a lot better. But in terms of the monowheels, or even a bike, so we have this bike from the previous experiment where you have the wheels one on each side kind of staggered, and it's the same concept. One has gyroscope override on and the other one doesn't, and that way we can make a little shifting of pitching or maneuvering up and down, left and right like this, and it becomes a nice little motorcycle-ish type of thing. So that's pretty much how the monowheels basically work. So when we take a monowheel, so if you could build a vehicle with just one wheel, I have this here, a 2x2 wheel, 3x3 wheel on a short suspension. And as you see here, it's just like on the floor. But once you hop in it, with one on gyroscope on, just basically move it over, and you can go up and down right here to kind of drive it left and not left and right, but like Q and E, or shifting a little bit left and right. There's a potential there. And of course, as we were playing around with it, the non gyroscope one, we could lower it so then we don't get too crazy with it. And you can always use your controls or your arrow keys to control this a little bit better as well. Turning wise, you probably don't want to turn with your keyboard. I mean, with your left and right, you might want to turn using your mouse or with your arrow keys. So you don't want to turn with left and right, because that is just going to knock you down. So your best way to turn with the monowheel is basically using your mouse or keyboard or your arrow keys left and right. So as you see here, I could kind of turn, but I'm also holding shifting left so I don't fall off. Because if I go forward and then turn left like this, I'm going to end up falling. So I'm going to have to shift myself back to, or lean a little bit to the left in that case. It's a bit glitchy in a way, but it does work. It's a simple way of doing a monowheel or a single-wheeled rover. It moves perfectly fine, but again, it's really reliant on that. That's how you do a monowheel. And of course, you can mess with the settings. So I was just playing around with other things. So your biggest wheel is a 5x5, obviously. You can do it with the short or regular suspension. Once again, one on override gyroscope and one on not. And here I lean left, and I'm on my front here, and I can always get my balance right there and drive this thing forward as fast as possible if we really want to. We can even bounce this thing up if we need to, but not necessary at all. And if you're sick and tired of these random wheel designs or unicycle design, I try to do one with a large wheel and a small wheel on the opposite side, so it kind of lines up like that. They kind of equally touch the floor. This is what, 3x3 on a 5x5. Same concept, one gyroscope override, the other one not. Here is more of a motorcycle-ish like thing, because it's just a line of wheels, except for one's bigger than the one in the rear. It kind of balances out okay even without the gyroscope being on or on override, as you see here. Like, it kind of works okay, but not really. But if we turn it on, you'll see that one wheel, well, it's a little back heavy, but you'll see that it kind of works out pretty well. Stopping works well, you don't flip over. But you'll see that you can just turn it by moving your mouse really quickly, or again, arrow keys or your controls left and right, whichever way you do this. So mono wheels, small grid works fine. Again, you just definitely need to make sure that you have the gyroscope set up correctly. Again, your most basic setting is just having one gyroscope on override. And being on override doesn't mean anything needs to be on any RPMs here. Y'all, pitch, roll. 0. Leave it all at 0. Put on override. And it's set to go. After doing all that, I haven't really tried it on a large grid version. So I went ahead and built this one here. 5x5 wheels. Ginormous wheels. Probably a bit ridiculous for a monorail. A mono-wheeled vehicle. This one is a 3x3. And same concept, basically. One gyroscope here. One gyroscope there. And we have a little bit of a helm here. So it is... Ooh, we'll just put that on the side. And it looks like, as you see it, works perfectly fine. So once again, all you need is just one gyroscope on override and the other one on non-override, as you see here. And of course, we can always lower the power if we need to, if we think it's too strong for the leaning, pitching, everything like that. As you see here, which is pretty good. Moves pretty well. But again, I'm really surprised that if you do change the one on override really low, it just changes the aspect of the double gyroscope here. I just flew up a bit just doing that. But yeah, seems like it works fine on large grids, no problem. Even considering weight-wise, it has no problem whatsoever. And if we're talking about a 5x5 wheel, right here, you'll see that works out really easily too. Looks like my wheel's a bit drooping, so adding some strength, put the offset on, there we go. So, same concept. You have your gyroscope on override, gyroscope on just normal. And looks like we can do it, we're not even touching the ground now. So this one's a little bit different because actually moving left and right is a little bit rough, surprisingly. So it's on default settings, but if I'm moving my mouse left and right, you see it's not as wild as the other one. So that's actually pretty interesting. So if we were to do what we did before and what we learned, lower the power for the override one, and that should make us, yep, as you see there, be able to wiggle it out a little bit more. And I don't know how I did that, but I made a big hole on the ground, which I am now basically stuck in for some reason. But we can fix that by taking the override off. Ooh. This is actually getting a little crazy. I'm basically stuck in a hole here. Oop. Okay, that was not supposed to happen. Alright, so yes, mono wheels work perfectly fine on large grid. It works on small grid. It's probably better on a small grid than a large grid, to be honest. But of course, we wanted to try something else. So we've done it with 2 wheels, forward and backwards. We've done it with 1 wheel, small grid, large grid. But what if we did it with no wheels? So as an example, here's a saddle. I can't even call it a rover because it has no wheels, or a ship because it has no thrusters. It's just got the blast door corners, 2 batteries, 2 gyroscopes, and a saddle. So basically, same concept again. You have your power, you have your one gyroscope on override, the other one not on override. And can we do a non-wheeled / thruster vehicle with this gyroscope combination? And the answer is going to be yes, in a way. As you see here, we're just galloping away using the gyroscope method here. So I'm just basically going up, down at a particular timing to really get that forward momentum. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like and subscribe. Of course, feel free to drop a comment down below, even to say hi. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.